Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today is going to be my full guide to mental game in disc golf. This could be a long one, so strap in. I want to make this the most comprehensive guide out there on the subject because it's not really something pros talk about or other people talk about. It's kind of relegated to, go read some golf books and that's about it. So these are all opinions, but I'm going to say it's based on experience. I have not read any of the top golf books for mental game or anything like that. I haven't read Golf is Not a Game of Perfect, nothing. This is just from my experience, what I've found works and common sense, hopefully. So yeah, hopefully you stick around for the whole thing. This is really useful, especially if you're trying to take the game more seriously. First thing we need to consider with mental game is that it starts before we get to the course. First thing I want to talk about is your goals and expectations. It's very important that you balance these carefully. Before you're going and practicing too much, we want to take a step back and assess where are we in the game right now? Where do I want to be in the game? How seriously do I want to take it? How much practice do I want to be doing? And how much do I enjoy it? Because at the end of the day, a lot of disc golf comes down to how well you can enjoy the game. Because the better enjoyment you have for the game, the more you love the game, the more you're going to be able to go do the boring practice that no one else wants to do and improve rapidly. So that's the first thing we want to take a look at is, first of all, the more time you intend on putting into the game, the more mental game is going to matter. Because if you're a newbie, you're better just to go get all your putts in the garage, or you're better to go do field work or work on your form. That's going to be your highest return on investment in terms of time. The better you get, the margins start to get smaller and smaller, and it becomes more and more important that your mental game's solid. Starting young in the game can be an advantage here because you sort of have a bad enough mental game that you learn the lessons the hard way. So a lot of adults have a mental game that's just good enough that they don't make the stupid mistakes, but they still suffer a little bit because of that bad mental game. But because they haven't entered below the threshold of starting to lose strokes visibly from their mental game, they don't ever have to fix it. When you grow up in the sport, like I did, you become a moody teenager and you realize, I need to fix this. I just cost myself a stroke because I missed an easy putt because I was mad at myself. We also need to make sure that we're balancing our expectations for what you have in store. We don't want to be expecting to be the best player in the world. We want to have the knowledge that we can do that with time, with work, but we don't want that to be expected. You should never go into a tournament expecting a win. It should always be wanting a win. You should never go into a round or a hole expecting a birdie. We need to shift that mindset so that it's not expectation of success, but we need to change it of this, I really want this, and then we can break it down. This is how I'm going to do that. Then even if the success is something small, like making a putt, we can then appreciate it and move on. So that's how we want to be making progress mentally, is never take anything for granted. But it's also important in that mindset to make sure that we're not limiting ourselves because of that. So again, it's not that I am the best player in the world. It's not that at all. It's not that I'm going to be the best player in the world. It's that I want to be the best player in the world, and all I'm going to do is work on matching my current identity to where I want to be. So where I currently am, for me, it's 1020 whatever rated, and I want to get to 1050 rated. What I have to then consider is, how do I start treating myself like I'm a 1050 rated player, and then the rest will follow. We never want to be demeaning ourselves when we're playing disc golf or even thinking about it. What I mean by that is, if there's something that you think you can't do, don't tell yourself that. A lot of people might see that there's this person entered for the tournament and their first thought is, oh, well, I'm not going to win. And again, it's just very important that we stay in a positive mindset so that we're not limiting ourselves based on our beliefs. For some people, that comes in the form of like, I don't know exactly how the quote goes, but the person who thinks he will succeed and the person who thinks he will fail are both correct. So with that being said, we always want to be focusing on the positives. We always want to be focusing on what we can do. Right. So now that I've given you the general overview of how we want to be approaching the game, I'm going to get into some more specifics, but we're still going to stay a little bit further away from the throw itself. So the framework I'm going to try to use for this video is we're going to start with big picture and then get closer to the actual shot itself every single time. So on the second layer, we have what I'm going to call your off-course demeanor. What that basically means is the happier you are off the course with your life in general, the happier you are day to day, the better you're going to play disc golf because you're going to be happier on the course. So your threshold for happiness needs to be quite low because then you can play a bad round of disc golf and be happy that you're still playing disc golf. That is one of the most important things with this game, because if you start getting into a bad mindset, then you're going to lose your love for the game. You're not going to be able to practice as much. And again, this applies in tournament and in practice. So I've seen this apply, on the putting green when you're practice putting. If you miss a couple and you're an angry person in general, and then you miss a couple of putts when you're practice putting, you're going to get angry and you're not going to be able to properly complete your training session. So it's very important that we set ourselves up for success outside the disc golf course. That way we can apply that inside and you're just going to be in a better headspace. So there are a couple things I would recommend for that. The first one is the most important by far, and I guess the second one's kind of the same, is gratitude. So gratitude is obviously just this concept of being grateful for what we have, not focusing on what we don't have. There's a super easy exercise you can do, and I think it probably covers most of the gratitude work you need to do. And I would recommend starting a journal, and every day start 3 entries in your journal and just write 3 things that you're grateful for. But the catch is, you can never repeat one. So you can't just say, I'm grateful that I woke up this morning. I'm grateful for my food and I'm grateful for my car. No. Every day I want you to be challenging yourself. Ideally you do this in the morning or the evening just to set yourself up to kind of frame the world through this point of view. I found for me personally that works a little bit better. Basically all this does is means that even if something bad happens, you can flip that, you can still be happy despite that bad thing happening. Obviously, I'm not exactly a mental health expert, but this is one of the drills and mental exercises I've found has helped with just my general mental well-being over the years. And like I discussed earlier, the happier you are off the course, the happier you are on the course. And I mean, that one practice, putting it in, is probably, if you take anything away from this video, it's that. I want you to do that, and yeah, let's do that. There's also opportunities to do this throughout your day, not just as an activity, but you can actively use these skills, build these skills so that when it comes time to use them on the course, you've already practiced them elsewhere. And that might be, say you drop something and break something at work. You can then try, in that moment, rather than just being angry, rather than just seeing the negatives, try turn that into whatever positive spin you can put on it. So, you could be grateful for the opportunity to refresh yourselves on the safety protocols of broken glass. That's just one example off the top of my head. Basically, the more practice we get off the course, the better it's going to apply on the course. All right, now let's get into the actual course itself. We're going to go in another layer. So this is now, we're talking about sort of your reaction to shots. So this is just after you've thrown a shot. There's a general rule, I think in golf and in disc golf, you get a couple of seconds after each shot to be angry at it, but then you stop after that. No more than 3 seconds or however long you set. Sometimes it's important to get that out. Sometimes, you throw and you hit a tree, you might go, damn, whatever. But we want to make sure that you let it out early if you're going to do that. We want to make sure that, you have those 3 seconds where you can be angry at the shot, but then after that, we immediately need to click back into our positive mindset. We need to then look at the positives of the shot, what you learned from the shot, and again, it's all about trying to keep this positive headspace. This one is quite difficult to do. Trying to look for the good in a really bad shot is hard. I won't deny that. But we need to also take into this sport the mental frame of basically every mistake is a lesson, which is ultimately true. So the most common one I can think of is if you're trying to do a jump putt approach and then you just putt it into a tree right in front of you. That one, for me, whenever I see that, all I have to think about is damn. So that's my 3 seconds. I go, damn, I putted into that tree. Then I flip the mental switch and we're immediately trying to think positive thoughts, and I might go, hey, well, now I get to make a highlight putt. Hey, well, now I know that I need to go practice jump putts rather than just assuming they're going to be good, because I might need that jump putt in a more important moment and it might fail on me then. But luckily it failed on me now when it's not important. Or, these are just examples of ways that we can spin this positively. So, again, alongside the looking for the good in your mistakes is also we need to make sure that we are looking for the good in the small things. This might be you parked a hole, great, you can celebrate that shot. Anyone can celebrate that shot though, and everyone does. That's not what we're trying to get an edge on our opponents with. The edge we get on our opponents is we step up to the 3 meter putt and we make it and we go, nice putt. We really want to mentally celebrate every win we can, even if it's, you throw a bad shot, hits a tree, you go, well, I hit my initial line. I'm feeling good because I hit my initial line. And a player who's feeling good about hitting their initial line is going to be an infinitely better player than the one who hits a tree and then goes, oh, stupid trees, I can't believe I just hit trees all the time, So again, positive framing. And it's really important to keep perspective, especially in big situations, because at the end of the day, you're throwing a frisbee in the woods. What are you stressed about, We, again, need to take a big step back, big picture, and say, hey, at least I'm not stuck at work today. Even if it's going awfully, even if you don't want to be there, again, a bad day on the disc golf course beats a good day at work. That's my saying at the moment that I'm thinking through my head if I'm not happy with how I'm playing. But it's kind of how we got to deal with it. On a similar note to that, if you're in a high pressure situation, the best advice I can give you is stay loose. Don't tense up. It's really easy to get into those situations and abandon all touch in your shots and abandon all, just everything. Like you kind of just tense up because you're so stressed, and it's when you're all psyched up like that, it's really easy to throw shots hard, and you don't want to try throw finessey shots because you're so full of adrenaline. My advice is, maybe you visualize to do this. Basically, just try be as loose as possible. Like physically loose. You want to throw the disc with as little effort as possible to get the same results. That one has really helped me in the past. I think that's the only way you can deal with pressure. Because if you sort of scale your muscle tension with the pressure of the situation, you're eventually just going to get to a situation where you're yanking all your shots. So it's important that we can keep fluidity in our throw through staying loose, physically and mentally. Again, keep perspective, but also just visualize yourself as a wet noodle or something when you're throwing. I don't know, whatever works for you. Now it's time to get into the meat of this video. The actual shot itself. And, the pre-shot routine, the actual shot. These are arguably the most important on the list, and they're probably the easiest to improve. So the first thing I'll say about, the actual shot itself is obviously you want to have a routine physically. So you want every shot that you step up to, you want to be able to have something that you do that locks you in, that mentally gets you focused on what you're trying to achieve, and that can be whatever. You'll notice most pros do have a routine, but I've found that disc golf pros probably aren't as strong in this category as others, so take what you will from that. But also, we want to develop a mental routine, not just a physical one. Because if you have a physical pre-shot routine, that's fine, but the real magic of the physical pre-shot routine is that it cues you mentally to lock in. So, for me, I do my physical routine, and my physical routine, when I'm doing that, it's cueing me mentally to go through a very specific set of things that I think about. The first thing is I'm trying to clarify my intention. So in my mind, I need to clearly state what I'm trying to do with the shot. Not just what shot I'm throwing, not what disc I'm holding, but what am I trying to specifically do with this shot. I want to be as specific as I possibly can when I'm thinking about this. So if I was stepping up to a wide open hole, it's very easy just to pick up a disc. Say it's a 350-foot shot. It's easy for me to pick up a disc that I know that goes that distance and then just throw it aimlessly. That's how you lose strokes. That's how you throw it to edge of circle rather than to 20 feet. And just that difference makes it so huge over, enough shots. So the first thing is clarify your intention. On that 350-foot shot, I'm going to pick up a disc. I'm going to pick up my kotoku, my mid-range, and I'm going to say, I'm trying to put this as close to the basket as possible. My aim point is here. I'm aiming, 30 feet to the right of the basket. I'm going to throw it on about this much hyzer. This is the sort of feel that it's going to have when it comes through, because I'm going to pick a specific power I'm trying to throw it. Usually it's going to be about 70% power. And I'm going to think about that. And all of that, you have to be as specific as you possibly can. That's the most important part. Other than that, you need to then visualize the shot. This one isn't so important as long as you've got the intent. But I want you to imagine right now, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine you're standing in a field and the basket is, a comfortable hyzer distance away. So for me, that might be 400 feet. I want you to do this in your mind right now, with your eyes closed. Can you imagine yourself throwing a shot, and then imagine like a follow flight on the disc as it goes out to the right? Imagine the grass that it's skipping on. I'm imagining my home field, so I know that it's kind of skippy at the moment because it's just been cricket season. I can pick down and I can go in my mind, I can lean down, pick up a tuft of grass, and I can rub it in my fingers. I can visualize that there's absolutely no wind right now. I can see the trees in the distance. I can see the trees to my left. I can look around. You should be able to do this in your mind. And this is a skill that you can kind of develop. And then, you should also be able to visualize the throw. And I want you to try visualize the disc flying out to the right on your hyzer, coming back to the left with the proper height, proper angle, skipping and landing right beside the basket. I want you to imagine that it touches the pole. That's how good you throw it. If you can do that visualization before every shot, you will throw every shot better, because your mind and your body then know exactly what we're trying to achieve and how we're going to do it. Now, how can we increase our focus? Obviously, this takes a lot of mental effort, and that's good. We want to be using up mental effort because a lot of people don't when they're playing disc golf. So every putt, we need to be able to lock in and visualize everything that we do. It all takes mental energy. The biggest obstacle to us right now when we're in our pre-shot routine is unwanted thoughts taking over our mind. And you know that nagging voice, if you've ever stepped up to a tee and you go, in the back of your mind, there's a tiny wee little voice somewhere that says, oh, hey, that tree's kind of close to the tee pad. Don't hit your hand on it in the follow through. Or, man, it would really suck if this just turned into a roller. You know, there's always that tiny wee little voice at the back of your mind. We want to get rid of that. Well, you can't get rid of that. What we want to do is achieve a mental state where you can then focus on the shot, you can have that thought pop into your mind, but you're able to let it pass. This is something I haven't really been working on as much as I should have been recently. Meditation is great for this. So, again, I want you to join in this video. This is an interactive video now. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to, I guess it is a bit of a visualization as well. I want you to, without changing your breath, just simply observe it as closely as you possibly can. Pick something that you want to focus on. Maybe it's the feel of the air on your nostrils. Maybe it's the rising and the falling of your chest. Whatever. Pick something, one specific point, and focus on that. And I want you to try focus on it in as much detail as possible. Now, if we do this for long enough, what you'll notice will happen is that you get distracted. You'll be thinking when you're doing this, why is Levi making me do this? And that's the type of intrusive thought that we're trying to notice. So when we're meditating, we're focusing on our breath. That's the easiest way to do it. That's the type of meditation I've always done. I usually do 5 to 10 minutes if I'm actually meditating like I should be. Focusing on the breath, and then we simply notice when a thought comes along. And then all we do from there, notice the thought and try our best to bring our attention back to what we were focusing on originally. That's all meditation is. Practicing the mindfulness of, not letting your thoughts distract you and getting your focus immediately back to where you want it to be. Now, how this applies to disc golf is, again, you get that nagging thought, and then you can go, let that thought go, let's focus on the shot. So it's not that we're completely eliminating those thoughts, it's that we're just choosing to let them be and then focusing on our shot. Now, there are some more specific things that I want to go into now. These are directly related to putting a little bit more. So, if you step up to a putt and you're distracted and you can't bring your attention back properly, the best thing to do is just to reset. So step off your lie, go through your pre-shot routine again, and again, just refocus. That's all you can do sometimes. Sometimes the distraction is too big for you not to do that. The other thing is, again, when you step up to a putt, sometimes you get that thought where you know you're going to miss before you've even putted it. It might be a 3-meter putt, and I still get this sometimes. I'll step up to a putt and I'll go, Levi hasn't missed one of these all day. He might be due for a miss. And then you miss the putt. It happens all the time. You hear it from people who miss short putts. They go, oh, I knew it. There's a way to fix this. The way that I've found best to fix it is when I step up to a short putt, even if I don't have that thought, I do this just as a practice. But say I step up to a 3-meter putt, which should be 100% make for me. And again, I get that nagging voice in the back of my head and it tells me, due for a miss now, Levi. Why don't you're probably just going to miss this. And instead of just putting the putt or stepping off, there is another thing you can do. What I do is I've been watching a lot of putting compilations, specifically Gannon Buhr putting compilations recently. So when I step up to that 3-meter putt, I can visualize in my mind the image of a spinning disc, hitting chains, and dropping into the basket. And again, with these visualizations that we're doing, we want to be as specific as we possibly can. Part of it is like it strengthens the visualization, but it also helps potentially distract from those other things. So what I will step up to the putt and do is step up, I get that thought, and then I'll immediately take a second, I will visualize the putt going in, and then that's when I'll be able to then initiate my putt. So yeah, there you have it. If you have any more questions about mental game, drop them down below. If you found this video useful, subscribe please. And yeah, let me know what you want to see in the next one.